I don't need a September Direct this year. I mean, I would love one, sure. It's like what your mom says, do you need it or do you want it? And my guilty brain would almost always respond, I just want it. Honestly, I probably would have guiltily answered that about actual necessities like food, shelter, love, and Pokemon. But yeah, in my wildest dreams, I could say I want a Nintendo Direct every week, which I guess is why we like to make videos imagining games that don't exist on this channel, which is kind of the next best thing. But I don't need a Direct this September. And moreover, even though they probably have one coming, Nintendo doesn't need one either. Let's talk about it. To be honest, as I alluded to a second ago, even though I don't think Nintendo needs a September Direct, based in tradition and kind of general operations as they are right now, I do think that we'll get one between September 2nd and 16th. And I'll get to some speculation as to what it may look like towards the end of the video, not really predict the specific games so much as talk about what their goals may be in it and more games as a whole. But I think the more interesting place to start is the premise of the video. Why do I feel like I, or we, or Nintendo don't actually need this Direct? Well, for one thing, it's interesting because Gamescom's going on right now and Nintendo notoriously barely shows up there. So I can imagine a sense in which it feels like, what's Nintendo even doing as more games get announced for Xbox and PlayStation and PC without a Switch version? Some of that is next-gen related, sure, but as we saw at E3, Nintendo likes to hold back information for their own presentations. And yet, even if that weren't the case, I don't think I'd mind that much. Also, though, I do think it's in stark contrast to almost every other year of the Switch, in which I think we really did need a September Direct. In short, the purpose of a Direct is to keep people excited about the Switch by ideally revealing new first and third party games and to a lesser extent, updating you on the ones that we already know about, but are around the corner within some margin of time, like before the end of the year or something like that. And going back, I seem to remember a feeling that by September there was already this vibe in the air that we were missing some kind of information, whether for a game coming out later in the year, like not knowing a release date for Xenoblade Chronicles 2, or just had truly no idea what lay beyond the current year and that Nintendo may want to provide us that insight. But I feel like more than ever, especially after a year like 2020 with no real quote-unquote directs, and having two now in 2021, I can at least say for myself, I'm extremely content with the games coming out in the short term, what I know about the long term, and the backlog I've got accumulated to hold me over through any possible dry spells. And I'd love to hear from you, because my hunch is that more people than ever feel that same way right now. And this is kind of the flip side of the video I made a couple of weeks ago, where I said the Switch itself isn't really novel anymore, so it'll have to be constantly held up by its game library. And I think right now it's doing a solid job at just that. So you know what, let's recap what all we know that I think at least is pretty exciting for the near future, the far future, and you can let me know if you agree. And for the fun of it, I'll tell you my backlog too, and I'd similarly love to hear yours in the comments. So right now I'm juggling playing through Skyward Sword at the pace of a dad with a new baby, and trying to go back to play more Monster Hunter Rise because I actually quite enjoy it, but I just never really got sucked into the loop, and so far I don't feel like I've made my $60 purchase proud. But the past 2 weeks, I've also been sucked into a game from the most recent indie world called Islanders. It's a really relaxing kind of city building game where different buildings have point synergies with other buildings, and you try to maximize your placements to eke out more points and get a high score, unlock a new island, prestige, and keep the run going. It honestly shouldn't be as fun as it is, but what can I say? And as a true backlog, if I finish all those, I've got Xenoblade Torn of the Golden Country to start, Immortals Phoenix Rising to finish, Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen to start, Okami to finish, and a whole bunch more I could get into but won't bore you with now. Like I said, I know that without spending another penny, I personally have lots of games to play whether we get a direct or not. And that's not to mention all the games already on the eShop that I could spend a penny or two on. But on the horizon, here's the upcoming games that I think will contribute even more to this feeling. And these are just the big ones. I'm not even mentioning games like Skatebird that I think will be super cool, but maybe are more niche, so don't impact this phenomenon quite so much. Just the day after this video goes up is No More Heroes 3, which feels both long-awaited and fits the core gamer demographic that Nintendo sometimes services and sometimes doesn't. I'm sure by now reviews are up, so we'll see how that pans out too. Sonic Colors Ultimate is a remaster of what's apparently one of the better 3D Sonics, so, you know, cool. WarioWare Get It Together is coming out probably just after or just before when a Direct would be, and they just made the right move a couple of weeks ago to put out a demo so you can try it for yourself. The microgame format is pretty new to me, but even though I'm not so sure I understand the breadth and presentation of the game as a whole, the minute-to-minute gameplay of the demo is pretty fun. Cruise and Blast will probably go fairly overlooked, but is technically a Nintendo property and will be super fun, high-octane arcadey racer along the lines of Excitebots or Excitruck on the Wii. Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania is having stranger and stranger collaborations. I wouldn't be surprised if it launches with Dom from Fast and Furious when it's all said and done, but is bringing back the most beloved direction of that series into the modern era, which is very exciting. And then Metroid Dread, and let's take an extra minute to chat about this game. When there were rumors of a 2D Metroid game, I was hesitant for a few big reasons. Firstly, I didn't know what Nintendo could do to make a game like this feel like a $60 game in 2021. I knew that it would be, and it would be justifiable, but I just didn't know how to make a 2D Metroidvania feel grandiose. And I was also worried that because of the turbulent state of the franchise, Nintendo just wouldn't give the marketing the attention it needed and deserved to really do well. And boy was I wrong on both counts. The way that Metroid Dread switches up from close cinematic 3D cutscenes, and I think some small gameplay segments as well, to its regular 2D gameplay really feels like it grounds the world and makes it feel big. The perspective isn't Samus running around on some arbitrary lines and platforms, but we can see that it's just a cross-section of corridors and rooms and so on. And y'all already know, but in terms of marketing, Nintendo's killing it. I'll keep moving now, but in short, the Metroid Dread hype is real. On my 30th birthday, October 29th, is Mario Party Superstars, and several of my friends will be at another friend's wedding that they've kept in touch with better than I have. So I'll be teaching my baby to play Mario Party. But yeah, unless they mess it up, this is a shoo-in for a good time. The best boards and games from N64 Mario Party. Classic fun. Also, PJ Masks Heroes of the Night. So, you know, that's good. Shin Megami Tensei V will continue to make the Switch a fantastic platform for JRPGs. I don't know a ton about the series, but have been told that it would be up my alley, and parenthood and full-time job notwithstanding for the 100-hour game it probably is, I'm sure it's right. Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl may be somewhat controversial, but they'll be great comfort food for Pokemon fans like me who don't want to play on something other than the Switch, but do enjoy some traditional Pokemon. And then to round out the year, Advance Wars Reboot Camp, a remake of Advance Wars 1 and 2, which I still think is a super exciting prospect for other dormant franchises, and in and of itself will be a great tactical RPG for this year. And that's just the first glance games for the next 4 months. To touch base on the core thesis, if that's all we knew, then I'd be like, yeah, great games are coming out. But we don't know anything beyond this year, so a September Direct would be great for that. But you know what? We sure do know stuff beyond this year. We only have release dates for one of them so far, so I guess Nintendo could always give us date updates and that's it, but who knows? So a quick rundown of what comes to mind. Pokemon Legends Arceus in January, and what can I say? I want to play this game. As AJ said in a recent video, this won't be the Breath of the Wild of Pokemon, but it looks friggin' great. Past that, confirmed more broadly just for 2022, is Splatoon 3, probably coming out in summer. And then also Project Triangle Strategy, probably with a new demo in the winter, and then it'll launch in late summer. Mario + Rabbids Sparks of Hope, which according to Gamescom just won Best Switch Game of 2021 up against the one and only Just Dance. So that makes sense. But it'll be good. And of course, Breath of the Wild sequel, for which I may just take a year vacation to play on its own. Past that is also eventually the humorously long-awaited Bayonetta 3 and Metroid Prime 4, but that's always going to be the case. And I'm sure I'm forgetting plenty of games on top of the hundreds that I just haven't mentioned because I'm just hitting the highlights. But those 3 things, a huge library of pre-existing Switch games, a ton of great games coming soon, and even more really exciting ones that are more mysterious but a bit further away, those things are the reason that I just don't need a September Direct this year. But heck, I still figure we're gonna get one anyway, and it'll be icing on the cake. So here's the kind of thing I'd expect to see. First off, the final Smash character. I'd guess a first-party character, but I don't even care at this point. And then I do bet we get some updates on stuff we already know about, which is more typical for the September Directs than anywhere else. So more stuff about Metroid Dread, Advance Wars, Mario Party Superstars, that kind of a thing. Nintendo doesn't include stuff in Directs unless they have something new to announce, but that new thing could be equivalent to what we just saw in the Pokemon Presents. Some announced features or plans for DLC or significant story stuff. I expect a couple of those for sure. One thing I wouldn't be surprised to see but won't get my hopes up about, I think it actually is time for a new console to be added to Nintendo Switch Online. My preference is that they actually make this a key part of the Direct, and it's because they're doing a big update to it, rather than just trickling out the systems one at a time, and if so, I could see them bring all the way up through Game Boy Advance and N64 all at once, even if at a higher pricing tier, with the key hints being the Mario 64 emulator that was on Mario 3D All-Stars on one side, and then also the way that Nintendo's been talking about Zero Mission and Fusion lately makes me think that they may have plans with them, rather than just being kind of tone deaf, but we'll see. But then past that, obviously some third-party games, an indie or two, a shadow drop here or there, and maybe a new Wii remaster. And I'd be more than happy with just one first-party announcement of a new game to close it out. I could see that be Xenoblade Chronicles 3 after some recent rumors, or a new Kirby, Donkey Kong, or Star Fox. To be honest, I don't even really mind what they announce. Like I said, I'm not even expecting a Direct at all, even if I'm suspecting one. And when it's announced, I would laugh, but I would be just as happy for them to come out and tell me, the Direct is all the games you already know, because there's just so friggin' many of them. Go play Dragon Quest XI, you dingus. But that's what I dingus. What do you dingus? Do you personally need a Nintendo Direct? Or do you think Nintendo needs a September Direct? Let me know all that and more, as well as your backlog in the comments down below. And while you're down there, be sure to like the video and subscribe to Fanatics4 for more content like this every Tuesday and Thursday from me and AJ. And then we've got the podcast every Saturday, and AJ streams on Twitch. There's a whole bunch of things we do. Yeah, there's the Discord too. You can do that if you want. You can become a supporter. We're doing the podcast live sometimes, or most times. That's the plan at least. So there's some fun things going on. Feel free to join in. It'll be a good old time. But that's it for me. I'll see you next time. Peace and blessings.